After his presser, as soon as it's done,
I feel like that would be like James.
Good. Well, it's a battle. I still don't feel like we played a full game. At this point, how we finished there in the fourth, but I thought there were some big momentum swings, some big fourth down stops, some big runs from our offense, and a lot of battling down the field. What I feel is our team plays for each other, and you really saw that today, the way those guys competed. Washington State had a good plan. They came in and they executed, and their quarterback's a special player, but so is ours, and I think that showed up today.
all the way back on the left, Trevor.
3 touchdowns for Bucky. If you were going to describe the way he plays the game of football to someone that had never seen him, what would you say?
I'd say his heart's pounding out of his chest, right? This dude's so passionate. He cares so much for his teammates. Never goes down on first contact. Really selfless player. And I think that shows up when you watch this guy play on the field.
On the right middle, Chris.
Yeah, sticking with Bucky, those 2 plays he had in the third quarter, I'm sure you've been on both sides of plays like that in your career. How demoralizing are those to a defense when you go back-to-back 40-yard touchdowns?
Yeah, it's huge. And when you can be explosive in the run game, it sets up everything for you in the passing game. Later on, even though they were able to stay on top of some shots, we were able to check it down and create some big plays as well. But, runs and passes, Bucky's proven to be a good player for us across the board, and I'm really proud of his performance today.
Right next to him, out.
Justin made his Oregon debut today, picked up a sack. Obviously you haven't seen the film yet, but just from the sidelines, what did you make of just his first game action this year?
Yeah, some good, some bad. I think he'd tell you the same thing. But the guy plays hard. He loves football. I'm glad to see him out there and healthy and competing, and he certainly makes us a better team when we can use him.
Front right, Zach.
Overall, the offensive line play, I think, was pretty solid. I know there's some penalties you want to clean up, but what do you make of their performance today?
Yeah, and just looking at it from what I saw today, obviously I haven't watched the film yet, but I thought we moved bodies, and that's where it starts. When you can move bodies up front, create some big runs, you have some backs that run hard, I think that sets up for success. They also did a good job protecting the quarterback. Bo held it for a little bit back there at times, looking for stuff to extend, and they battled. Certainly want to clean up the penalties. There's a couple of those that really hurt us.
All the way in the back, Matt.
You touched on some things to clean up. Just what do you attribute I don't know if it's maybe a slow start, because he did move the football in the first half, but just not finishing drives. What do you attribute to that?
Yeah, we got stymied a couple times there on drives, and even coming out right out of half, we moved the ball, and then again, same thing. So, we have to clean that up. I have to look at the film to be able to give you a good answer of why, but ultimately, I think we'll get that taken care of.
Second row right, Jared.
Trey Boy's obviously got the start at corner, but was that a product of kind of what he did at Washington last week and what he did in practice this week, or is it more so just Jalil being a little dinged up?
It's a product of the work we do every single week. Every single week in practice, every practice matters, every play matters, right? And he's proven that he can be a player that can play for us, right? Obviously, we played a couple guys back there today, and when you have multiple guys that can play, it gives you a chance. Now, I'll say this: we can play better, right, than what we did, and I think we'll watch the film and we'll see some of that. Not speaking towards Triquez, I'm speaking towards our entire team. So we're going to find out where the warts were and how we can go attack them.
Right your front left, James.
You were able to get to Bucky in the passing game against them last year. Arizona had a lot of success with it last week. What did you see heading into this one that you could point out and say, all right, we can get the ball to him through the passing game. He can be really effective like he was.
Yeah, just we knew, there were some shots, like I said, that we wanted to be able to take, and we felt like if the shots were covered, that our checkdowns were available. And I think that's probably where you saw the majority of his passing yards today. I know he had a couple out of empty where he was the uncovered option. But ultimately, that's generally the rule with shots. If there's somebody on the back, then the quarterback's legs are alive. If there's nobody on the back, then you have the check down available.
Middle left, Bill.
Hey, Dan, when you say his heart's beating out of his chest with Bucky, what are the qualities that you're describing there that maybe we don't see in games?
Yeah, I don't know that anybody wants this team to be more successful than Bucky Irving, right? He cares about his team. He cares about his teammates. He loves hard. This guy, I won't go into detail about his backstory, but the adversity that this guy's faced, for him to be the remarkable young man that he is really impressive. And, I have 3 sons. I hope my sons can grow up and be like Bucky Irving.
We got Rob right next to him.
You talked a couple different times this week after practices about just kind of intensity and in terms of response to last week's result. Now you've got the whole week under your belt, like this game under your belt. Just how would you describe the way your group kind of rallied back from last week's result?
Yeah, I think they came out and they took a team's best punch. Washington played hard. Washington State played really hard today too, and they had some big moments within that game. I don't think our guys ever got rattled. They stayed focused in the moment, and that's really what playing great football is about, is being one play focus. But I know there's a lot of things that we want to get right, and I think we can do better. I know the quality of players we have in that room. We have to go execute at a higher level moving forward.
Back left, Trevor.
On that Bucky Irving receiving touchdown, Patrick Herbert blew up a guy. What was your reaction to that? Did you say anything to Pat after that play?
No, I didn't, but I absolutely loved it, right? I mean, that's football, right? When you can just steamroll a dude, right, take their will and absolutely punch it in, and that's 11 guys playing for each other, right? Pat wasn't carrying the ball, right? But he was blocking for a guy that was, and that was really impressive play.
Front right, Zach.
It's hard to fully assess without watching the tape, but in general, what do you make of your defensive line ability to get pressure today when you're playing such a unique player in Cam Ward who's got an ability to escape sacks, would-be sacks?
Yeah, I think our guys, at times the fatigue showed up, and that's where these strength and numbers really matter, right? Where we got to have guys out there. At times we executed really well. So there's some good, there's some bad. I think we can go evaluate ourselves too from a scheme standpoint of how do you handle a quarterback like that. He's a tough one to handle, and it's hard to have great answers if you want to play coverage, right? You're not going to be able to necessarily finish on the QB. If you want to pressure, well, now you're creating a lot of one-on-ones outside, and he's a guy that can take advantage of it. So we'll evaluate it, but I thought our guys played hard. I thought they understood the plan. We just got to evaluate if there's some other things we can do to execute better.
Second row left here, Eric.
Kind of staying right there, just you guys feel like you impacted his, I guess, where he threw the ball from the pocket, made him move around enough, or kind of just your assessment of how you impacted him?
Probably unfair for me to say without really watching it yet. At times we made an impact and at times we didn't. I don't know how many sacks or TFLs we necessarily ended up with, but I know that he had some successful plays that are going to eat at me a little bit that I want to make sure we attack.
Middle right, Alec.
Yeah, you guys gave up, I think, 7 15-plus yard passing plays in the first half, and up until the last 2 drives, they didn't have any of them. What went out of halftime to limiting those chunk plays?
Yeah, just, communicating what routes we were getting and how we wanted to match those in certain coverages. And again, when a quarterback extends plays, all those routes go to the side. It becomes scramble drill, and he's one of the best when it comes to scramble drill. You got to stay on your man, right? You got to continue. You got to trust the guys up front to get the rush. There were times that we had really good coverage, right, but we didn't have great rush lanes. There were times we had really good rush lanes, we didn't have great coverage. So we got to marry that together and get it right.
Back middle, wearing the Oregon gear.
Coach, seems like the team hit their stride 2 minutes to go in the second quarter when you took the lead. Was there something that clicked, or did you start to kind of just get your game plan going? And what did you say to continue the juice at halftime to the team?
Yeah, I mean, our coaches had to coach, right? And they had good answers for some of the stuff that we came in wanting to attack, and we were able to adapt and create some answers off of that. I thought our offensive staff did a good job creating some motions and shifts that allowed us to have numbers, in the run game. At halftime, we just talked about if you can taste blood, don't let go, right? Keep biting. And I think our guys did that, especially coming out in the third quarter.
Front left, James.
You've had to rely on a lot of freshmen off the edge, and in a game like today where a lot of them have sacks and TFLs and Tatum comes up with a big PBU, what did you see from those guys, from whether it be Tatum or Mateo or Blake, where those plays were all fairly pivotal plays at the time, and they're coming from guys who are new to this team? Relatively.
Yeah, if you're good enough, you're old enough, right? We've said it before. I think 15% of our snaps right now are freshmen. I think that speaks to us developing talent and us recruiting great talent. So I have high expectations for them. So we're focused on some of the positive plays, right? I want to go focus on the things that we can fix.
All the way in the back, Matt.
What do you think of Jordan James quietly behind Bucky? He had a pretty good day as well. And just what makes that tandem, I know with Noah back could be a trio, but just what makes that tandem just so good for you?
Yeah, how they run. I think they take on the personality of their coach. Coach Lachlan he coaches those guys hard, and you get great results from that, right? And every single day the standard is the standard, right? And you guys get to see it on Saturdays, but I get to see it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the way those guys practice, the way they run, the way they work, right? And it really carries over from that practice out to games.
All the way in the back, Ronald.
Seems like in the second half, you guys did a really good job of getting the ball to guys in space. How dangerous are guys like Tez and Bucky once they get that open field?
Dangerous, really dangerous.
Right here on the left, Eric, second row.
Any update on Bucky? I know he came out at one point. He seemed like it was
I don't have an update right now, but I know he went in for the last play of the game, so I think he's going to be okay. Obviously, we want to be smart, and I'll get an update from our medical staff.
Front left, James.
Bucky didn't have as many receiving yards and opportunities when he was at Minnesota, and I realize they run a very, very different kind of offense. How do you go about, a year ago, identifying that he had that skill set to be a weapon as an all-purpose back guy in the receiving game where, he's putting himself in pretty rare air here in terms of what he's doing on the ground and through the air. How do you go about identifying that when you don't see it on film because of the offense he played in before?
Yeah, you just play catch. Once he gets to practice, you play catch. You're like, okay, that guy can catch it. Let's throw it to him. And that's, it's pretty simple from that standpoint.
So that's all we have for you, Coach.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good one.
Well, no, I've never seen you before. So exactly. No, you're a little apprehensive.